There was a time where I didn't have anyone to help out, especially when my daughter was smaller. So I mentioned before, my husband used to travel for work, so he was gone for months at a time. In the beginning, I did, well, not in the beginning, first year, it was just me. And then going into the second year, I did have a sitter who came for in the morning. She left for like noon. And because COVID was going on, she would pop in and pop out. Fast forward to I applied for a program. It was supposed to help women who wanted to learn more about directing. I got into the program. I think it was like 8 weeks or something like that. And at the end, you had to direct a short film. And so when it came time, I did all the work, all the things. And when it came time to preparing to shoot the short film, I realized, like, oh my gosh, I don't have anyone to watch my daughter. What am I going to do? I reached out to the sitter who used to come. She wasn't able to come. She had taken a full time job at that point. I reached out to, I do have two sisters that live here. They don't live next to me. One was already, well, one is a single parent, so I would get her son sometimes. He's older than my daughter, but I would get her son sometimes because she works at a hospital, so she would have to work long shifts. And then my other sister lives even further from us. And she has come from time to time when she's not working. She's a lawyer, so she's always working, super busy. So they were pretty much off the table. Like, there were times they would come over here like on the weekends and, hang out and sit with me and things like that. But in terms of, okay, I have to go somewhere, like they were working or they just were not here. So I reached out to, well, I think I reached out to like one of my aunts. She was working, she lives here, but she doesn't live next to me. But I called her too and was like, hey, anyhow, she couldn't come because she was not able to get off her job. And so I was like, oh my God, like, I'm not going to be able to finish this project. Like, what the heck am I going to do? And then I end up like Googling, like, what do people do when they can't find anyone to watch their kids? And this 24-hour daycare popped up. And I'm like, 24-hour daycare. And I never heard of a 24-hour daycare, but apparently it's a thing. And so I go over there. Meanwhile, my daughter at that point, I don't think she had even been in daycare yet. So I go over to the place and I'm like, okay, well, this situation, I really just need someone for like a day and a half. I have to go, film something. And they're like, oh, it's no problem. They gave me a tour of the place. I had to pay $100 registration fee. I go, this is no joke. And the owner was so nice, like so nice, so nice. I go into the place and it's packed. When I tell you packed, it's packed because we went like late afternoon, kind of like going into the evening. And so apparently a lot of people, especially moms who are nurses who worked at night, would take their kids there. So apparently it's a big business. But anyhow, me and my daughter toured it. And so she's holding on to me and I'm like, oh gosh, this is not good. This is not gonna be good if I gotta bring her here. So I'm in a place and it's like the best way I can describe it was like a lean on me at daycare. It's like you ever seen the movie Lean on Me. There was a little boy, I tell you no lie, and he had to be maybe two and a half. He had a boombox. Like I haven't seen boomboxes since the 90s. He had a boombox sitting right here walking around. I'm like, what in the world? And so I asked, I said, like what's going on? And it was loud. I said, what's going on? And it was like, oh, he needs that, to keep himself calm. Like that's what he literally had it here on his shoulder. And it was playing like kid music, but it was loud, like very loud. I'm like, what in the world? So I'm like, okay, no, I'm absolutely not doing this. I left there. Then I spoke to my husband afterwards, and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "The people there were very nice. The staff was highly equipped, very, very nice." One of the teachers, she was pregnant at the time, and so she was asking me what my daughter's name was. I told her, she's like, "Oh my God, I love that name." She's like, "I'm about to steal your name. I'm going to name my daughter that." I was like, "Okay." So anyhow, I get back in the car. I call my husband. I'm like, "Yeah, I think that's going to be a no." And so him and I were talking about it, and he was like, "Well, what other options do you have? Do you have?" I was like, "No, I don't have any other options." I was like really getting stressed out about it. So I'm like, "I finished this whole course. I want to be able to film this. I had actors lined up, everything. I just didn't have any childcare." So I very reluctantly decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and send her there for the day. My mom was like, my mom didn't live here at the time. They moved here like a year ago. My mom was like, well, it's a daycare. They have good ratings. Like, what, there's nothing that they're going to do. Someone's trying to call me, sorry. She's like, there's nothing that they're going to do. She'll only be there for a day and a half. She's like, if you feel like you can do it, you can manage it, like go ahead and do it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had so much anxiety. So I think it was like 2 days after that, I paid the money. It was $100 I had to pay. I went and dropped her off. Of course, she was crying. She didn't want to go in there. And I felt so bad because I had to leave her there pretty much all day. So while I'm filming, like I'm being mindful of the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, like okay, it's getting now into like the evening. Like I got to get out of here. And I told the DP, the director of photography, and I was like, hey, we only have like one shot left. And he was like, I got it. He had a daughter or has a daughter. He's like, go ahead. He's like, I got it. He's like, well, I'll pick up everything else we need to pick up. Like we're good. So I I left. I left and went to the daycare and picked her up. The next day, I want to say she was only there for a couple hours the next day, and then I was like, okay, that's enough of that. And so it was a very very interesting and stressful, super stressful experience for me because I would have preferred to okay, I have someone next door, I have a friend next door, something like that that I can drop her off to. So I'm looking at my kids on the camera, just they're dancing. So um, I'd rather have dropped her off someplace where I knew, like as an auntie or a sister or something like that. But that was not the case. Fast forward to when my daughter got into preschool. I mentioned before my husband has health issues, and a little bit over 3 years ago, is when he first started developing health issues and had to have surgery, and I was pregnant at the time. And so the mom that I made friends with at the preschool, she was like, "Hey, do you have help lined up?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to take my husband to the hospital and then come back and then like, get my daughter." And then she was like, "No." She's like, "Go ahead, go to the hospital. I'll pick her up from school. I gotta pick my daughter up anyway. I'll pick her up from school." Her daughter and my daughter participate in this learning program together after school at another location. She was like, "I'll take them both there." She's like, "And if you're not back from there, I can figure out, the next plan, or I can coordinate with someone, in your family." So I called my sister and I was like, "Hey, when you get off of work, can you go meet?" I told my friend's name. "Can you go meet her at such and such place and pick Story up?" And so my sister was like, "Yeah." So my friend picked her up from school, took her and my daughter to the learning program they were part of, and then my sister met them in the parking lot and picked my daughter up from the parking lot. But it was just such a contrast from the first time where I did not have anyone, especially during the day. Is so hard because people are at work. Obviously, people have lives. People gotta go to work. They gotta get their paycheck. They can't just be calling out of work, especially because you need to go film something or whatever the case is. And so it was such a contrast from the first time where I had to pay almost $170, take my daughter to a 24-hour daycare that it was not the place that I honestly wanted her to be at. However, she made it through. I made it through. It was an experience. It was a time. And then fast forward to when my daughter's in preschool, where I had a mom who I built a friendship with volunteer, like, "Hey girl, do you need help? Like I can help you." And I wasn't accustomed to someone offering their help because for so long, obviously, I didn't have a community. I didn't have anyone who volunteered to say, "Oh, I will come on this day," or "I'll come and do this." "Oh, I got her. Don't worry about it. I'll come pick her up. I'll make sure she gets back home. If no one can get her from the learning place, I'll sit with her. We'll figure out a plan." You know, it took the stress off of me being the only one trying to solve an issue where I had so much stuff going on. My husband's having surgery. I was pregnant with my son at the time. During that pregnancy with him, I was bleeding. I was bleeding for the first 7 months. And so I'm supposed to be on rest. I couldn't be on rest because I had stuff to do. I have a daughter, who was in preschool at the time. I got to get her, like it was so much involved. So when people say you have to sit down, sometimes people literally cannot sit down. They don't have a choice to sit down. But it just, that was my first experience with having someone who volunteered to help me, someone where I started to feel like, oh my God, things are getting a little bit easier. Some of the pressure is being let off. Like I'm starting to build something that I wanted, something that I wanted to have other mom friends, other people that I can relate to. And it started with just that one person who came up to me and said, "What's your daughter's name?" My daughter talks about her all the time. And sometimes a connection is as simple as that, someone coming up to you saying, "What's your name?" So now after that time, I do that to other moms. I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's your name?" I introduce myself. And that's how I started to build other friendships, other relationships. But let me tell you, when you don't have that, it is hard. It is a hard way to go. And it's even harder when you're a stay at home mom because you don't get a break. So definitely build a community, go introduce yourself to someone. It makes life so much easier when you have someone that you can, one, trust, someone that you build a friendship. Don't leave your kid with anybody by any means. But I had built a friendship with this lady for it was almost a year, I guess, before this situation came about. Find someone that you can trust. Find someone that you obviously like to hang around, that you can, as an adult, you can hang around them. Your daughters, if you have both have daughters, they can hang out together. Like I am friends, I'm friends with her. I'm friends with her mom. She's getting that same person. She's getting married this next weekend. She came recently, and I'll talk about that in another video. My daughter turned 7 a couple weeks ago. And so I mentioned, kind of briefly, like, oh, we're going to go down to Nashville because we want to do something different. I'm tired of doing these birthday parties. We want to have an experience versus just putting money towards a party. And I briefly mentioned it to her, and I was like, I know that people are not going to come because it's 3.5 hours away, and you got to pay for a hotel. She was like, "I'll come," and I was like, "You're gonna come?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'll come." So she came, and another mom friend that I met at that same preschool, she said the same thing right away, like, "We'll come," and I was like, "Wow!" So they came, their mothers came, like, and that was all from just saying hi to someone, from just having small talk with someone. So have the small conversations, let it build naturally into a friendship, and you'll start to feel that circle building and start to see that you're not alone. And that is so important as a parent, that you are not by yourself, that you have someone who has your back, someone you can talk to, and someone you can start building a community with.